That's him.
No, it isn't.
Isn't that the law? Other signs that out there. You don't know what parts are bad.
Have you ever looked at it in a dictionary?
Price of gas.
You know what it says?
Yeah.
You look at those.
They don't even use on it.
Very. Look it up.
I will say
How good.
Let's come to order. Thank you. Council meeting, October 16, 2018. We have minutes on September 13th. We have a motion second, all in favor? Okay, council meeting September 18th, 2018. There's a motion second, all in favor? Okay. Okay, Michelle.
I'll begin with old business and second reading of meeting procedures.
The ordinance, there was some discussion about 5 minutes and then the total number of minutes per topic. And then the one thing that we really never got I never heard any consensus on was the issue of whether or not the speakers could only talk about matters on the agenda. So let me walk through with you the language here, and you all tell me what you all want to do. The first part that's in dark italics is not, is no change from what we have now. It says any person not a member of the city council who desires to address the city council other than during a public hearing. That's important because time in public hearings, whether zoning or alcohol permits, are not going to count against it. So that time is completely excluded. So when we have public hearings at the beginning of the agenda, those public comments that people make during public hearings don't matter for this purpose. Shall sign on a sheet provided on the podium located in front of the dais or on the city clerk's table. This is different than the way we've been doing it now. Up until now, the procedure has been that they would have to notify the clerk by sometime on Thursday in order to be able to speak at the meeting on Tuesday. This, and I heard from council members that, well, until the agenda is actually published, we're not going to know what they may want to talk about. So basically, this says you sign in on the day of the meeting, before the meeting, and then that's when you talk now. The first time, in the normal type, we have only items on the agenda as amended or proper for comment during the meeting. The comments regarding any other matter shall be out of order. And then it says comments regarding other matters may be provided in writing to the clerk, who shall distribute such written comments to the mayor and council. If you all choose not to do that, there's a sentence that at the end of the provision, I want to jump down there. If there's still some desire, and the consensus is to have comments during the meeting only about agenda items, leave that, we can adjust the language, and then at the end of the meeting, if you all want to allow comments on things that are not on the agenda, then there'll be a time for that if we have an executive session, after executive session, and right before adjournment. Again, that'll be up to you. It's in order to give you all some options. The next part, going back up to the top where we start in with dark italics again, this is just kind of the method, what you need to do during the public comment. You come, you identify yourself, you talk to the council as a whole rather than any particular member. I put the 5-minute requirement in there, which is what I heard there was consensus on. Then we get to another area where there's where it's not dark in italics, and this reads, public comment should be limited to, there's a blank, minutes per item, that means item on the agenda, in total of blank minutes per meeting. Preference should be given to citizens who reside or own property or operate businesses inside the city of Statham. And then again, that was part of the procedures. I never heard any real consensus as to whether or not you all wanted that to offer that preference again to those who reside, own property, or operate businesses. And then there's a provision that says if more than 5 people sign up and you set limits that total time that would be exceeded, that it authorizes the mayor to basically divide the time evenly between the folks who have signed up, even if that allows for less than 5 minutes. And then again, as I noted before, at the very end, it says at the end of the meeting, prior to adjournment, there shall be blank minutes total, allow for comments on items or topics not on the agenda. So it basically allows you all to determine how you want these meetings to operate. Again, agenda, not agenda, total time per item, total time per meeting, or not. So, and then, like I said, I've got this on my computer so we can finalize this tonight. It's ready for second reading and adoption if you all can determine how you want to fill in the blanks in the final language you want, or you can table it next month. It's up to you.
Public comment shall be limited to blank. Now, it's 20 minutes on our old one, right?
What's that?
It's 20 minutes on our old,
That's what your procedure says in there.
okay. And the total of, in our procedure now,
Total of 20. What this basically says is that if you're going to limit it to the topic on the agenda, I'm trying to look at it,
okay.
basically, if you want to say 15 minutes per topic, but you also want to allow, if there's a couple of topics that are going to generate a lot of conversation, it allows you to set a limit per meeting. So in other words, say 15 minutes per agenda item, 30 minutes total per meeting, and that time is allocated however it's allocated based on how you all set the agenda.
I personally like to see the sign in just like we got it, just like we do already. That's my personal feeling. And also feel like 5 minutes is not too much time. But it's up to the council.
I'm good with the 5 minutes per item and the 20 minutes per meeting, on each topic. I don't really recall too many, maybe one or two instances where the topic ran over 20 minutes, maybe a dump issue or, Officer Lofton issue or something like that. But that hasn't been, those have been very few and far between, so I'm good with the 5 minutes per item and the 20 minutes per topic. That's, that lets 4 people talk on one topic for 5 minutes. We don't even ever have anybody speak really.
I'm good with the procedure we've had in place. Myself.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
The one difference between what you've been doing and what this will say is that before, people had to basically sign up the Thursday before the meeting. What this provides is they sign up the night of the meeting. Because I heard Ms. Betty and at least one other talk about the fact that until the agenda is actually published, people may not know what they're talking about. That is a difference in what we've been doing.
And I have, the only other issue I see is that where we are allocating time towards people who live inside the city versus people who do not. I mean, Statham isn't big enough to really let this come between someone who wants to speak here. And this is, I'm just trying to think out loud. We can do, we're doing just fine. If we can just table it or.
I don't want to table it. I want to
Just
get,
let it pass. I think
Yeah.
just let, you don't vote on it.
yeah, I mean, I'm good with it.
What's here or?
Did you say?
Yeah, what's here?
Okay. Well, we need to fill in the blank, so we need to decide.
Okay, 20 minutes is I'll make the 20 minutes what it was, but in the old,
Okay.
put 20 minutes here, be limited to 20 minutes. That's 5 people, 4 people talking 5 minutes.
Right, and that's total for a whole meeting.
Well, that's for the first, yeah. I mean, and what's the total for the last part in our meeting today?
So, well, right now, you don't have a per agenda item and a total, there's no difference. It's 20 minutes for a meeting. So if you all set a particular time for agenda item, then you may want to, set a different time, allow a little more time in case people want to talk.
If you do it per topic.
So that's why you want to limit it from meeting.
Right, and I mean, there again, the mayor has, if it really was something that was a major issue, he could extend the courtesy at that time. Is that not true?
Good. I'm a little concerned about doing that because that begins to look like content-based decision making.
Well, I guess what I'm asking then, if it wasn't a pro and con controversy. That, seven people wanted to speak. And it was necessary to hear both sides of the controversy. Or, I'm just asking. And so what would be, so that, if you gave them 5 minutes, 7 people, 35 minutes, so who gets eliminated, who don't get to speak? The pros speak first, and then the cons didn't get anything. I mean, is that,
Wasn't that up to the presiding officer or the mayor?
Once you all put an ordinance in place, no, it won't be up to the presiding officer, it's going to be set by ordinance. And the presiding officer is going to have difficulty making decisions outside this ordinance that are going to look like he's making determinations based on the content of what's being said. And that's a problem with the purpose.
The solution in this particular case is if people that are concerned about particular topics would approach officials prior to the meetings and have it put on the agenda for, they can discuss it with those officials. And then the officials can have a discussion in the agenda. And that way, it's not, if it's that hot of a subject, and then they could have they would still have the community input time. That's the 20 minutes of community input time. But as far as if it's a hot subject, I can't believe that people don't approach city council people more about.
We do.
We want to talk about agenda items.
So we're stuck with 20 minutes per topic,
per item?
or per item.
Not per meeting, isn't it?
For me right now.
The current procedure is 20 minutes
Per item.
meeting.
Okay.
Meeting.
I think y'all making this difficult. Just stay with what we got.
I think if we don't vote on it, we just say
Okay,
There's no motion required, we can just.
Okay, I'm fine with what we have.
I make a motion, we can leave it alone.
Because if we go 20 minutes per topic, we could be here 2 hours, everybody's going in 20 minutes.
Okay.
So,
There you go.
I say go back just like it was.
Next item on the agenda, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we're moving on to new business. A, Professional Probation Services, Inc., PPS, second addendum to the contract. As Tracy explained in the work session, there is a $5 increase from $35 to $40 per month for probation services, or supervision, excuse me. She said there had not been an increase in several years. This is the first one they've had an increase.
That the pass-through is
I'll make a motion, we accept the second addendum to the contract for professional probation services and go with $40.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion, second, all in favor? Thank you.
Next is the first reading of the annexation and rezoning of map parcel number XX126-050 from Ag to R1. This is on the Jackson property that Mr. Rice spoke about at the work session.
Okay, any questions?
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve, have a second.
It's a motion to waive first reading.
Stop, well, there you go. I make a motion to waive first reading.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, got a motion, second, all in favor? Thank you.
Next is the first reading of the rezoning of map parcels number ST06A-088 and ST 06A-088A from R1 to R2. This was discussed by Mr. Lewis at the work session. It's changing from residential to R2, which is for duplex.
Okay, that's on Lake Street, right?
Right.
Okay, any questions?
We had the revision in there that he paved, that he was gonna pave through the back lot. Is that still?
That's only when
He builds the site.
when he's developing the second lot.
This again is just a first reading. We will have a public hearing
Okay, right.
next month, and we will have, we're gonna have a plan I'll talk with Mr. Chip Williams, mine and Michelle, and I'll talk with Mr. Chip Williams. We'll have conditions drawn up that are appropriate for this, if you all choose to adopt it.
Okay, I make a motion, we waive the first reading, rezone the aforementioned maps for this property at 8th Street, 88A.
You got a question? You second it? Is that what you do? Okay. You got a motion? You second. Okay. All in favor? Okay.
Next on the agenda is the alcohol license request and application for distance waiver permit for the restaurant Fajita Mex.
This is all for information purposes only. They gotta run the ads, and that'll be for your decision next month. Again, we'll have the conditions written out, because the church and everything are going to agree to, and they said they would pay the fee. We're not going to,
So no action.
so no action.
Okay, Michelle.
Okay, next item is the service delivery strategy, SCS Form 2s, as was discussed in the work session.
We're accepting it as
All the Form 2s except for water and sewer, coverage area, and road maintenance. And we're moving forward in mediation with those on November 12th.
So moved.
Okay, that's, Perry made the motion, we have a second.
second.
Any second? All in favor? Okay, since y'all voted on it already, but that's quite intense. Michelle's done a lot of work on that. Maybe Michelle can do it. I think everybody had the opportunity to look at it. Okay.
Next item is the first reading amendment to golf cart ordinance.
I took a look at what we call our golf ordinance, and compared it to the state law. And I also took a look at a couple of model ordinances that are on GMA's website. They've got both a very detailed ordinance and then one they call for small cities that's about a third the length. It actually looks very much like the one that we have. The two things, this ordinance actually presents two things in our ordinance that probably do need to be changed in order to make it consistent with state law. The first, I basically have taken the section of the fees and just redlined it so you can see the changes from our current ordinance. It leaves the fee at $10. It eliminates the differential between residents and non-residents. Gives people 10 days to register when they buy a golf cart. If they don't do it, there's a $20 penalty. And at the end of the 10-day period, it's considered an unregistered cart. If they transfer or they sell it to somebody else in the city, there's a $5 transfer fee. And then the registration period is every 5 years. The ordinance reads that it begins this year. What that means is everybody's got one, has to register it this year. Assuming everybody who has one now is still here, still has one, they'll register again in 2023. Someone moves in, buys one in 2020, they have to register, then they have to register again in 2023. That's the effect of the way this reads. The second change not clear to me that this change has to be made. On the second page, our current ordinance has the only equipment, there's actually two provisions that regulate equipment in our current ordinance. One is for gasoline powered parts, they've got to have an exhaust system. And that seems to be entirely appropriate even under the change in state law. Safety equipment and things like that, if you're going to regulate equipment, it appears that you have to have what's called a personal transportation plan. So in other words, you basically have to plan you have to do a lot more work in terms of planning. I mean, you all have a plan in terms of in requiring paths and new subdivisions and things like that. But when you look at the requirements of the statute, it seems to be a little more involved if you want to regulate equipment. That's talking about things like reflectors and hip restraints and all that kind of stuff. We do have one, other than the exhaust system, we have one equipment regulation in ours, and that's seat belts in what are called LSMVs. Those are low-speed motor vehicles. Those are the vehicles that go between 20 and 25 miles an hour. Those are different than golf carts and these other things. And I think, I don't know Chief's here. I don't know, they may have to have seat belts. Yeah, exactly. Those are things you could actually drive on the road at the speed limit was no more than 35 miles an hour. Those are a different type of vehicle.
Okay.
But
They still have to be registered or?
no, yeah, those still have to be registered. But in order to make sure that we're consistent with state law, and state law may require them to have seat belts, but it may be that, again, unless we do this plan, mostly we're not supposed to regulate equipment. So they remove, the change will remove this requirement for seat
That
belts.
registration is with the state?
No, it's with
For
us.
as far as the vehicle that does up to 25
I do
miles?
not know the answer to that. I don't know if those have to be licensed or not. I don't think they do.
No.
I don't think they do.
Yeah.
But they can be.
In which case, they're not covered under this ordinance?
They're still covered. They still have to be registered. You just, they follow, the main difference between those and others is that they can actually be driven on a street, any type of street, as long as the speed limit doesn't exceed 35 miles an hour.
I was under the understanding that that was the requirement for the golf cart. As far as that particular road only requires 35 mile an hour, the golf cart is allowed to drive on it.
Maybe, but even on state routes and those types of things, these types of vehicles can drive on those roads against the law and not more than 25 miles an hour.
They kind of fall into agriculture.
Exactly.
Can I back up? You said that there's actually a registration period, that everybody's registration dies in the same year? Is that what you said?
What the state law allows you to do that. It says that you can do it no less than 5 year increments. But the way that statute seems to have been interpreted is you can't have yearly registration requirements. You can't require them to be registered every 5 years.
Could it be from the year that it's actually registered rather than having it set? What I'm concerned about is somebody buys it 6 months before the end of the period. They pay their $10 and then they have to pay another $10 when the new date is.
Well, you can do the rolling thing. That just becomes more administratively difficult for the police department. If you have a period that's consistent across the board, you send out your notices in the water bills or however you choose to communicate that. But yes, you can have a rolling 5 years if you all prefer that.
So this is the same as the other night, but it doesn't, I don't see the $60.
This is,
It's just.
The other stuff that's stricken out just really doesn't apply to the state, so.
Yeah.
Basically, once we remove the differential between residents and non-residents, a lot of this other language basically makes it.
Yeah, then we get into the state's requirements for these vehicles, the lighting and those type of things.
well, I got just one question. If the cart is not registered within 10 days of purchase, a $20 penalty will be apply. I mean, and I'm asking this one question, like I know a neighbor of mine, his cart's been sitting there for a year. Might not ever run again, so, I mean, does he still have to, if it, because $600 is what it costs to put batteries in one. So, I mean, if you can't afford the batteries,
As long as you
Can
don't
we,
worry about.
can we phrase it in such a way that the point that it actually is intended to be used on the road?
right, that's kind of where
I'd have to go back and look at the ordinance. I think that's actually how it functions.
Okay.
I don't think you can cite it or ticket it
Yeah.
for having an unregistered, unless you operate it.
But the.
well, that's why I was asking,
about
because you
the,
bring it a bit, because you bought it 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And so, but then, that's what I'm saying.
If you don't operate it, you're not going to decide.
That's where I'm going with that, because I mean, it's very, very simple, but then confusing.
Certainly.
Thank you,
All
Thomas.
right.
And what are we doing on, Thomas?
Wait first read.
Wait first read.
Okay,
I make that motion.
I say,
Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you.
Mayor and council, I'd like the motion to add the comprehensive plan update resolution to the agenda. I'll put a copy up there. If I can, I can read a little about.
I make a motion that be added to our agenda.
I say. You second that?
No, you go ahead.
Second.
Okay. Question? Any more?
Yeah, the vote
That's fine.
No, we're voting at this.
Well,
We added it to this agenda.
Okay.
And we have a first and a second.
All right, let's vote on it. Okay, thank you.
What it is the Department of Community Affairs and the Northeast Georgia Regional Commission have completed their review of the local plan document. There were no findings derogatory towards this comprehensive plan. The submitted plan is generally consistent with the regional plan and regional resource plan, and the regional commission said there are no potential conflicts with neighboring jurisdictions' comprehensive plans. I can give you all a copy of that as well. We received this late yesterday afternoon, but it does need to be voted on this evening. Any questions?
Michelle, what motion do you need for this? You just need approved to allow the mayor to,
It's not a resolution.
I made that motion.
Okay, we have a second.
I'll say it. I'm sorry.
All in favor?
Just pick up that.
Everybody vote?
Let's pick up.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, Lord.
And is there a need for executive session?
There is. Litigation.
I like to do on personnel, talk about personnel.
Yeah, motion to go ahead and litigation.
I made that motion.
All right, we have a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Statham and I have been talking each year, we get this letter from Chairman, through Chairman, about the hospital in Lewisville or Atlanta about donations. So this year we decided we're gonna try for pajamas only, adult society, from small to extra large. So if you would, right at the city hall between now and the first part of December, they are going to the hospital there, either one, Millersville or Atlanta, whichever one. And
Ladies' pajamas? Lady? Both?
Both,
Okay.
both, the male and female.
And
And I hope that we can get it in the
that is cash appropriate as well.
Cash gifts appropriate?
Oh, yeah, well,
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
And that way you can get the sizes you want.
Okay.
and also November the 17th, this is on a Saturday, Rainwater Foundation actually does each year, give away clothing to anybody that come and find their size. We like to clean out the closet and give them tools or call me. I'll come get them if you don't live too far. Otherwise, you can drop off on my porch or City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll do that. Sorry. All right. We're going to executive session.
Jackson, you just sprouting up right boy. You jump, I'm telling you, you taller than I am. Thanks so much.